All right. So this week we're going to talk about mindful eating. We're going to do half the presentation this week. We'll finish the other half next week. So I want everyone to close their eyes for just a moment and think back to the last meal you ate. Can you remember what it tasted like?
Yep.
Beautiful. Mute your screen, Terry. The texture, how it smelt. Now open your eyes. Here's my question. Can you even remember what you ate for lunch yesterday?
No.
If you're like most of us, the answer might be fuzzy or completely blank. That's because we're not really there when we eat. Today, we're going to change that. So we can, let's see, normally I would have us kind of break up, but when our Q&A, we'll kind of go around and talk about in our Q&A session what we last ate into some different questions. But I just really want you just to kind of think about that. I mean, even for me, it's like sometimes when people ask me, it's like, well, what did you have for lunch? Oh my God, I mean, I have to remember 3 hours ago. It's like so much has happened since. But it's just like it just happens to be that we're just constantly going through our day that we don't even stop to think about like what we're doing, what we're eating, what we're being, what we're any of that. And that's so important just to remember just to stop. So I want you can feel free if you want to take and grab a notebook and take notes on some of this. You will get the replay, so it's not a necessity. We are going to have Q&A at the end. And do try and mute yourselves so that we can make sure that we don't have anybody talking in the room. We shouldn't, and we can always unmute if I have a question that I want you to do. So we've all, excuse me, we've all been there. Now, no matter how big of a health nut you are, which you guys are all learning to be, or how great of a cook, we've all been caught mindlessly eating. How many times do you cook and you just start eating the food? I know I do. And then it could be just because we're bored while we're eating, or we're just mindlessly reading the recipe and we just start munching on it. I'll be cooking and my family members will just come in and start grabbing my food while I'm trying to cook. They might not even pay attention to what they're doing. They just mindfully just grab stuff and go. I can see you guys all shaking your heads. You're all in that same boat as me. So it could be boredom. It could be out of coping mechanism. It could be completely mindless and aimless, the reasons that we eat. Whatever, or paying attention, what I mean. Whatever the reason, learning to be more mindful when eating can change your life. I once had a patient that came to me who was exhausted, bloated, and gaining weight. And despite eating healthy, when we dug deeper, she admitted something fascinating. She was working from home. So this was back in the days of COVID, right? When everybody was working from home, working at 6 to 8 hours on the videos, calls daily, and all that kind of fun stuff. And during this time, she'd snack, eat chips, crackers, whatever was nearby. But then here's the thing, she couldn't remember any of it. Her brain was so focused on the meeting that her hand to mouth became completely automatic. She was consuming an extra 1,200 calories daily, calories her brain never even registered. That's not a willpower problem. That's a presence problem. We all talk about, well, I just need the willpower to stop eating. Do you realize right there, she was just mindlessly eating? It's like, you don't even think about it. You just have it sitting there and you're in your meeting. And next thing you know, you've eaten all this food and you're like, huh. And then you throw the box away and you don't even really realize that it was all in one sitting. Or what about if you're watching TV? You guys do this. You just sit in front of the TV and next thing you know, you got like popcorn or some kind of crackers or a bowl of ice cream or whatever. And you're just eating, eating, eating. And then you're like, huh, yeah. It's just kind of like, when you're driving and as you're driving, next thing you know is you get to where you're being, but you don't remember anything about what you drove. It's all about that mindlessness. So it's about, we need to open up our awareness and becoming more mindful and conscious of what we're eating and doing. So let me ask you, when was the last time you ate something and couldn't remember eating it? Well, I guess if you can't remember you were eating it, you probably can't remember the last time you did it. But what were you doing instead of being present with your food? Like watching TV, sitting on the phone. I know a lot of times I eat, and as I was writing this, I realized I need to shift some of my old habits that I've gotten into. But I'll grab my phone and I'll be, doom scrolling on the phone while I'm eating, or playing my little games on the phone while I'm eating because, I seem to think I have to be doing something while I'm eating. I remember back in the day when I was growing up, it was all about watching TV while we ate. Nowadays, I don't really watch TV, but now it's like the phone and playing the games and doing everything. And it's not actually paying attention to what I'm eating. Next thing I know, I'm all done. I'm like, huh, what do you know? Cool. Well, wait, I think I'm still hungry. Let me go get some more food so I can doom scroll some more. All right. So why mindful eating matters. Not only do you get more of a grip on what your body needs, but you also slow down and learn to savor your food. You can fully experience all the effort and flavor you've put into your next big meal. Learning to be a mindful eater is a simple way to change your relationship with food and body image. Little things make a big difference, especially when it comes to the way you choose to eat. So, what is mindful eating? There are lots of components that go into mindful eating. Still, it all focuses on slowing your mind and body down so you can engage with every aspect of your meal. From the way the food feels in your mouth to the memories that come up when you eat the meal, everything on the table is on the table when you engage in mindful eating. So sometimes when you're mindfully eating, when you smell the food, so one of the good things is when you're making food and you smell it, a lot of your digestive enzymes begin to start forming and start happening in your body so that when you start to eat, your body will break food down. So cooking and taking time to actually cook or even like reheat your food, but just take time before you actually eat and just smell the food and allow your mouth to get like the juices flowing in it so that your body starts to get those enzymes going. I know many of you already are taking enzymes because our body isn't making them on our own and we're not being fully engaged. So our enzymes aren't there to break our food down. So if you can just slow down, smell the food, because smelling food, I mean, how many times like we're coming up on Thanksgiving, right? And we start to smell that turkey, we can almost remember our grandmas and all the other family members like gathered around and eating, and you bring these memories to the forefront of your mind. Those smells, they just capture you. I mean, I have pumpkin spice going in the office all the time because pumpkin spice in my world is like comforting. So you just kind of like eating the smells. Well, smelling the smells that create those emotions, create that. Um, so there's also like knee-jerk reactions happen when you mindlessly eat that can leave you in a place of heightened emotion. These high levels of emotion can keep you trapped in an endless cycle of racing thoughts and guilty feelings, all centered around food. So think of it like this. If you have a plate of food and you got your Thanksgiving meal and then afterwards you're about to eat the pumpkin pie, but you're like, oh my God, I probably shouldn't eat that because there's so much sugar or there's so much, fat or there's so much, it's not going to be good for me to eat. And you instantly feel guilty for thinking you want to eat it. And then if you do eat it, you feel guilty or you weren't paying attention to what all you ate and you ate so much food and now you're guilty because you ate all this food and you feel overstuffed. So switching your thoughts from mindless to mindful eating is one of the best things you can do for your mental and physical health. So let's kind of go over the benefits of mindful eating. So beyond changing your mindset, there are a ton of health and life benefits from switching to mindful eating. Since your body and your mind are so closely connected, as you develop and change your approach to food and eating, your body will respond too. Even big issues like binge eating and out of control weight loss can start to be tackled and curbed with some simple changes to your mindset. So here's some big ones. Calorie counting and exercising, right? We all think, well, if we just eat more, we just have to exercise more, or we get so consumed with calorie counting that we lose the enjoyment of even food in general because we just want to lose weight. And not everybody does, but it kind of starts to happen. I mean, we're females, we start to have issues around food and we start to have different triggers, or you'll have comments like Terry had the the cookies, but sometimes some people are around other people who aren't always nice and say, well, you know what, not like you need another cookie on those hips or anything like that. You'll hear negative talk. And then that creates guilt and shame in our own lives. But even if you cut back on almost every type of food you like, count every calorie you consume, and hit the gym multiple times a day, losing weight can still be difficult. Often, this isn't a reflection on your willingness to try to lose weight or your dedication to working out. It's all about how you approach the meal itself. Mindlessly binging your calories for the day in a short amount of time can have you gaining pounds even when you don't want to. Changing your approach to meals from mindlessly binging food to enjoying the experience just as much as the components themselves gives you a new approach to weight loss. Because we're all women, we're all what? Probably around 50-ish or more or less, around there. And this is something I've been talking on the podcast, that when we're stressed, what happens is our cortisol starts to increase. And when you increase your cortisol because of stress, we gain right around our bellies. And then we become, I hear women all the time, they're always so obsessed, or they're always trying to pinch their sides, trying to make them skinnier and trying to, like, oh my God, I can pinch an inch. I'm really fat, kind of thing. But here's the thing, when you're stressed and that cortisol increases, it causes you to gain weight in the middle of your belly. And so just calorie counting and just exercising isn't going to do it, because you're still stressed while you're counting your calories, and you're still stressed trying to over exercise. So it's also about, we got to decrease that stress. And one of the ways is doing mindful eating. So I'm going to, and you may find it curious how when you simply slow down and pay attention to your body and begin to communicate what it's needed to tell you all along. Some people discover this quickly, others notice it gradually over time, but the wisdom is already there, waiting for you to listen. What I have noticed when I ask clients to do 3 things, so these are 3 things, these things you might want to write down, is slow down and sit while eating. How many of you just like, we're eating on the go, we're standing, we're eating at the kitchen, we're eating on the go, wherever we're doing, we're fast, right? Slow down, sit while eating, and no phones or computer or work while you're eating. That's a huge one, because that'll be a huge challenge. Just like sit and just be like, I am going to be so mindful of every bite I take. And so instead of being on the phone and doing something else to distract yourself, you're just going to be very intentional, very conscientious of every bite. And then you're going to chew each bite 20 plus times. When you chew it to the point where it's almost like juicy, it makes it so that your digestive system can absorb the nutrients from it better. And then also, by chewing it so many times, you're activating those enzymes in your body to work. You're also shifting that, a lot of you have acid-base ratios off, and we call it metabolic acidosis. Most people will have an acidic issue like that. And when you start to chew your food like that, you are sending messages to your brain, which is sending messages to your stomach to create those enzymes, to create the right acid-base ratios so that you can break your food down and absorb your nutrients. So the better you can do at chewing and really getting it more liquefied is huge. But most people bite their food once, twice, maybe 3 times if you're lucky before they swallow it, which then makes it really hard for your whole body to really consume and digest and take care of it. So most clients that I have all have gut issues. And when you can learn to actually just slow down, sit, be mindful of your eating, and chew your food, you're going to see a lot of bloating and gut issues start to resolve themselves, or at least minimize. So then that way we can really work on the gut health and really work on the healing components. And then the other thing you notice when you actually do this is that you actually feel fuller. And you're about halfway through the meal and you're just like, I'm actually full. Maybe I don't need to eat all of this. And then without even realizing it, you're cutting back on not overeating and you feel satisfied. Remember last week we kind of talked about like the amount of food on your plate. By doing mindful eating, you're going to become way more conscientious of those foods that you're eating on your plate. And you're going to be more conscientious of the percentage of the protein, fat, and fiber on your plate. which is going to help you figuring out your percentages. So emotional eating and eating your cravings and feelings can lead to massive amounts of weight gain. Being stressed constantly can cause you to gain weight too. And the stress that can come after you look back and feel guilty about what and how fast you eat. Mindful eating is designed to help you reduce stress and change your approach to every aspect of food. This is all about making yourself more aware and removing your negative feelings about the type of food you eat. As your mindset changes, you learn to let go of the guilt and shame that comes from eating and food. So, like what I mentioned earlier today during my one-to-one, and I can even have sometimes like we might have a session maybe with a hot seat and we can actually have somebody go through some of the coaching. But when we let go of those negative emotions, there's 6 big negative emotions. But when you start to let go of those, which is anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and my brain just went blank. I did this earlier today. Guilt, shame, fear, hurt. Hurt's the one I always keep forgetting, hurt. When you release these 6 negative emotions, and then we start to retrain your brain around food, eating becomes more enjoyable. So sometimes people hold like that anger and the guilt and the shame around eating. And I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to actually like realize food is so amazing. And when you slow down and you just enjoy it and you eat it to make you feel alive, it's a whole different ballgame. And then, and also the other thing, pay attention. This is the other thing. And I didn't put this in the slides yet, but when you're eating, do you ever notice like the first few bites when you eat taste so good? And then after you've eaten, like say, you're in there and you're eating, all of a sudden you're getting towards the end and you're just like, oh, this isn't tasting as good as it did with those first few bites. When you start doing the mindful eating and you slow down and you're doing it conscientiously, you'll notice that, when you start to lose those amazing first few tastes of the bites, you might want to think, maybe my body's telling me I'm full. And I want you to always experience where those flavors burst in your mouth. And so when you're eating, just think of like foods that will help your mouth just kind of like, almost like have their own little dance party when you're eating. That way food is enjoyable. Eating is enjoyable, but you only eat mindfully. So binge eating is when you eat a lot of food all at once in a very short amount of time without stopping to think about what's going into your body. Now, I know some of you may say, but I don't have a binge eating problem. But I beg to differ. How many times have you just sat down and just ate and ate without even really thinking about it? And next thing you know is your belly hurts so bad because you've eaten too much food. I mean, hello, Thanksgiving dinner is one of them. I mean, most people eat so bad they have to extend the pants on their waist. Or I know, like we like to go to, it's Fireside Theater, and there is sometimes because I mean you get like 5 courses for your meals, and it's like by the time you get done, you're like, oh my God, I think I'm in a food coma, and then I got to stay awake for 3 hours and watch a play. Everybody, next thing you know, everybody next to you is snoring because they're all passed out. So we've all done it. I mean, doesn't mean you have an eating disorder of binge eating. It just means we've all been mindlessly eating. It is time to wake up, right? So sometimes we have really big feelings that happen to you throughout the day, and they often come to fruition when we're binge eating. Like sometimes you have things happen to you that make you angry, right? Or you're sad, or you're happy, or you're joyful, and you're like, hey, this amazing thing just happened. Let's go celebrate. Or, hey, you know what? I'm really sad and mad. I'm going to go grab a bowl of ice cream. Or we do that, don't we? We eat based on our feelings. So instead of stepping back to deal with those emotions through food, we want to take the time to express them in a little bit of a different way so that we can still be mindful of our eating, but we learn to express our feelings in a little bit of a different form. Maybe before eating, you actually have to write down what you're feeling and express it and be either grateful, or maybe we have to reframe it if it was something bad that happened, or if it's a feeling that keeps coming up. Well, maybe we need to look at it and see if there is a limiting belief or something that is holding you back from actually processing what's happening in your day. And or maybe you come home because you spent time at the office and you just mindlessly ate at the food because people have random food at the office and they've just ate a whole bunch of food. And by the time you get home, you're just like angry that you ate all of it, but now you got to eat your healthy food meals, right? So as you learn to practice more mindful eating, the side effects of binge eating are slowly going to diminish on their own. Removing the big emotions from the meal and focusing instead on the moment. And the meal itself lets you step back and refocus on what's right in front of you. So I had a patient, and I kind of want to tell you her story a little bit, but she'd put the kids to bed, finish work, emails, and suddenly find herself standing in front of the pantry at like 10 p.m. at night with her hand in a box of crackers. And then she'd come to 10 minutes later with the box empty, feeling confused, guilty, and still somehow unsatisfied. I don't know about any of you, but I don't know if it's crackers, chips, whatever. Sometimes you open up the freezer and you grab the ice cream and you just stand there and take the spoon and eat the ice cream jar, right? Making me think I have a problem with ice cream. I keep mentioning it. Sound familiar to anyone? Here's what we discovered. She wasn't actually hungry. She was just overwhelmed, exhausted, and looking for a pleasure in a day that felt devoid of it. The food wasn't the problem. It was the messenger. Once we addressed that, what her body was really needing was rest and boundaries and emotional processing. The midnight pantry visits stopped on their own. So what if I told you that binge eating isn't a lack of discipline? It's your body's attempt at communicating something important. What do you think your body might be trying to tell you during those moments? And I'm sure that I'll go individually, and at the end, we can kind of talk about some of that, or you can write down some of your ideas of what your body might be trying to tell you. And the other thing when we start mindfully eating is it helps improve our digestion. So when you inhale your food and mindlessly eat, there's a good chance that your stomach and digestion aren't doing well because your body, your enzymes haven't had time to start breaking down the food. All of a sudden, by the time you get done eating, your enzymes are like, oh, hey, I'm here. But you ate so dang fast, I can't work now. So then we sometimes get acid reflux when it's actually just because, oh, hey, the enzymes started activating, but you've already done eating. And they're like, well, okay, well, now we're going to have the acid start when it was supposed to be there ahead of time to break your food down, but it showed up at the end because you ate so fast. So eating too fast means your body needs more time to process and digest everything the way it should. On top of that, you likely need to eat the best foods to care for your body. As good as those chips are, they don't have the same nutritional makeup as a more mindful meal. Like a handful of or cut up an apple or, some carrots or some broccoli. There's way more nutrients in there. But I want you just to, you want to stop and think. And just as you slowly eat, then your body can digest those foods. So stepping back, focusing on the meal automatically slows you down, which lets your body catch up to everything and digest everything. So I had another client come in and she has severe digestive issues, bloating, pain, irregular bowel movements. And she had seen different doctors and done different things. And when I asked her to describe a typical meal, now there's times when I'm going to ask you guys to do this, and I've probably already asked most of you, and you guys all balk at it, not wanting to tell me about your food or what you're eating, or you avoid telling me different things. But when you do, we can figure stuff out. So she described that her typical meal is that she ate at her desk, usually while finishing reports that were stressing her out, or just doing different things that were stressing her out. And there it was. Her nervous system was stuck in fight or flight mode while eating. Her body couldn't digest because it thought it was running from a tiger. I do talk about this on my podcasts from this week, so I do need to get the links to you guys. I haven't emailed them out, but I will get those to you guys. If you're looking for it, it's the Rock and Yes podcast. It's pretty much on most platforms, so you can watch and listen to it. Anyways, we worked on one simple shift, eating away from her desk, taking 3 deep breaths before meals, and putting her fork down between bites. Within 3 weeks, 80% of her symptoms started to resolve. Because what was she doing? She was slowing down. She was becoming mindful. She was taking the time to actually chew her food because she put the fork down. So she had to chew her food before she could start diving in and shoving the next bite into her mouth, right? So it wasn't necessarily changing what she ate, but how she ate. So sometimes your digestive system isn't completely broken. It's just brilliantly responsive to your nervous system. What you call digestive issues might actually be your gut's way of saying, I need safety to do my job. Pretty fascinating. So sometimes we have to slow down and just listen to what our body is saying. What are we forgetting to slow down? What are we trying to not pay attention to? So as your body improves its approach to digestion, you start to notice changes, not only in your physical health, but your mental health too. Gut health is vital to every area of your life, from the way your mind works to how your body functions. Improved digestion improves your gut health and becomes rebalanced, so you can get back to doing all the things you love. So here we are talking about, like, you guys don't want to have your meetings during the 5 o'clock time because that's meal time and other things and you're rushing. So this slide's kind of for you. So you're just getting home from a really long day at work. And nothing sounds better than eating your entire meal standing at the counter without even pausing for a breath. But you have to cook it all before you can even get to that meal. It sounds more stressful than a long, stressful day. And then, you got Dr. Raquel saying, we got to have a meeting in the middle of you wanting to prep your food, or you have to shift when you eat. So I'm listening. So why not just stop and grab a burger and fries and a milkshake? Then you don't have to cook, get the kitchen dirty, and wait for the food to be done. But when you step back and start to practice mindful eating, your food choices start to change too. So you're not just going to do those mindful, or mindless, oh, I just don't want to take care and do all this. I just have no desire. I mean, how many of you have thought of that? I mean, you can raise your hands if you want. You're on your way home, irregardless, whatever has been happening, or on the way back from a sports activity or anything. And you're like, oh my God, I got to eat. I got to feed the family. And I just have no desire to get the kitchen dirty. I don't want to deal with a dirty kitchen. I don't want to deal with any of that. I'd rather just drive through, grab something quick and easy and go. I mean, we've all done it. I mean, I do it frequently. And it's just like, I'm like, no, what did I put on my list? What are we having tonight for dinner? That's what we're going to do. It's staying true to your word. It's about putting those boundaries around yourself. And when you create your menu, follow your menu, because then what you're doing is you're building trust in yourself to know that you're going to follow through with what you said. So instead of being in a rush to eat whatever types of food you can get quickly and eat fast, mindful eating lets you step back and make a healthier choices. Cooking a meal full of good fiber, like carbs and veggies, and plenty of protein and fats, the PFF. So the PFF is protein, fats, fiber. You'll hear me say that a lot. When you're looking at your meals, you want to have PFF on your plate. Proteins, fats, fibers. The fibers are your complex carbs and your veggies. It seems manageable when you slow down and focus more on it, the mindful side of it. Even experiencing new things for meals, from veggies to proteins, becomes a simpler experience when you slow down and focus on becoming more mindful. Mindless eating is often used as a way to relieve stress, but alone it can cause more stress than you'd realize. As you slow down and start to focus on your feelings, experiences, and emotions that come from the meal itself, it's much easier to reduce stress naturally. Food is not just a way to express your overly stressed feelings from the day. Mindful eating focuses on letting your mind engage with every aspect of the process, from making the meal to savoring the last tiny morsel. Slowing down lets the stress dissipate. One little step at a time helps you move away from overwhelming amount of stress that has nowhere to go, to a process that gives you time to focus on everything that you're experiencing at that moment. Have you heard that saying before? Eat to live, not live to eat. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. All those fun little sayings. It's about just being mindful and choosing foods to live, nourish your body. Food is nourishing. It's not, use nourishment. So anyways, that's this first half of the presentation. Next week, we're going to go into practicing mindful eating, or how to practice mindful eating. So then we'll do more of that, but you've kind of heard a little bit of the things that I kind of suggest, but let me stop sharing and stop recording this.